Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, I suppose, as it were. Thanks for joining me again for another monthly tech office hours. I'm Christopher Moravec, the CTO of Dymaptic, and we're here to talk about AI and GIS and various other things. But first, I'm really, really pleased with what my Whisper Frame is doing behind me, because I was just telling Agnes and Holly, who are helping behind the scenes today, about this idea that I have to build a little tiny desk robot that can go around and sweep my desk up. And the Whisper Frame really nailed that concept. So I'm very proud of it for that. I'm quite pleased with that. That is almost exactly what I'm building. Not really. Doesn't look like that at all. But it's great. Um, so today we've got a few fun things to do. I actually had another webinar this morning from the uh, Data Visualization Society, and we built an app in that webinar. So I'm gonna talk about that for a minute, and then I've got another thing for us to build, a few things to share and do, and then some questions. So we've got a full full thing today. Um, yeah, I guess let's start with checking this out. Um, so I'm just realizing that my screen there is hanging off a little bit. Let me adjust this for you all so you can see it a little better. I know my head is on top of uh, some of that Claude, but it's not important at the moment. So anyway, so what I did earlier this morning with the data visualization group is we wanted to answer the question, should I go outside? And so we gave Claude some instructions about building a map with contours for air quality and live wildfires on it, and you should be able to click in on that map and get a go no go decision, so to speak. And I think it actually did a really good job. One of the criteria that I gave it was to build really good map symbology, like high quality map symbology. And I think it actually did a pretty good job. Like this map is not bad. Um, it followed one of the interesting things that it noted is that it tried to follow the EPA standard, and classic Claude, it went ahead and put that in the UI. It tried to follow the EPA standard for air quality colors, but it noticed that those standard colors are not colorblind compliant. So like you if you have a certain type of color blindness, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between those colors. So it corrected them and tried to make it better. So I thought that was kind of an interesting little thing that it found. A couple of kind of other interesting things about this. I did go ahead and put this on GitHub, so I'm pretty sure this is public, so anybody can go see what it generated here. But a couple of other things I thought were interesting is that it cost $15.66 to build that application, and that I was using Fable to do this, so I didn't use Opus to do anything. I started with Fable, and I suppose that it's possible that Fable chose to spawn a worker that was an Opus worker, but I did not weight it in that direction. I let it choose. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. It took, yeah, it ran for about 20 minutes working on that. So I thought that was kind of interesting to look at that cost for building that, and then also there was some fun Whisper Frame going on while we were talking about and building that. But the other fun thing that we did for that webinar is I vibe coded a little web form for everybody to give us an idea about what we should build for that webinar, And then I built a little dashboard. Jaws built a little dashboard so I could see all of these things. And that's where I got the idea for the air quality map. But what was interesting is the second most common request was this kind of, it was about routing. I don't see the one that I was thinking of. Oh, here it is. I'm planning a 10-mile run starting from X location. I want bathroom breaks at miles 5 and 8 and at least one place to fill my water. And I want to be on nature paths where possible. And like this idea that I have a route that I want to have, but I want to describe stops along the route using regular language and have the AI redo that route. I thought that would be kind of a fun to do now. So we're going to try to do that. We're going to set Claude off building that. And then I have some other fun things to share while Claude's working on that. So I am just going to come over here and I'm going to go ahead and stop Claude in that folder. I'm going to switch over to my new Claude here, which is in a new blank folder. And I'm going to use the speech mode inside Claude Code, which you activate by doing /voice. And you can turn that on and off. And I have it set up so that I can hold the spacebar and talk to it while that's happening. So I'll bump my camera off to the other side here for a second so you guys can see the Claude output. Okay, so I want to build a simple web application that allows me to get a route from location A to location B using open source routing engines if possible that don't require an API key. But if that's not possible, let me know. And we'll find one with an API key. So I want to be able to get that location from A to B, but I want to be able to describe stops along the way. So for example, I want to enter in plain language. I want a 10-mile run from X to Y or returning back to X when I'm done. And I want a bathroom break at mile 5 and mile 8 and a place to fill my water halfway through. Or maybe I want to stop at a coffee shop. And I want to be able to note the type of thing that I'm doing, like going for a bike ride, and I might want bike repair shop because maybe I want to have my bike looked at, or I want a coffee shop and have a coffee, or a water break or a bathroom break. And so I want to be able to specify kind of the types of stops and the route that I might take. And I want the AI to work back and forth to generate that route for me in this web app. So what I'd like you to do is think hard about this, generate a plan, and ask me questions. So I would probably think a little bit more about this if we weren't trying to just kind of build this here at the last minute. But basically, that's how I start these kinds of application builds. I like to talk out loud to it because I can kind of give it more context more quickly, and I'm having Claude build that plan, right? And I could separate this even into more than one chat if I wanted to. Like I could just work on a plan and not write any code. Or I could do that even in Claude Desktop. I don't have to do that in Claude Code here. I could do that just in like the web app or the desktop app, and I could work on it and then bring it to Claude Code, and I was ready if I wanted like that really strong isolation. But this is kind of how I do it. I'm describing the app that I want and asking it to build a plan, and that's really the kind of 3-step process that I go through, which is think, engage, test. We're doing the think part where I'm using my brain to think about what it is that I want to build and how I want it to work and what I want it to do and things like that. And then once we have a plan, then we'll go on to the engage step, which is getting Claude to build. And then we'll go on to the testing phase where we look at what Claude built and we potentially give it feedback and work in a loop like that. So that's kind of fun. Just looking to see if there's anything in the chat at the moment. If you got questions or you want me to pause and explain something more, please just drop a note in the chat. I'm trying to pay attention to it as we're going here. And that's fun, just to show that this is live. Somebody just stuck an idea in here. How about an app that sends me a text alert to warn me if I'm heading towards an intersection in Portland where I'm going to get stuck waiting for a train to pass for an hour so I can change routes before it's too late? You know, does that data exist? Can you get that train schedule data? Because if you get that train, that's an app that needs to happen. If you're like within some radius of a train track in Portland, like I feel like that app needs to exist. That's a really good idea. I don't know if that data exists. That would be a fun Claude question to see if we could find that data. Actually, let's just ask. I'm in a live stream right now, and somebody just asked me about building this app, and I've put their question below to describe that app. And what I really want to know is, does the data exist to understand where trains are? Like, could we tell that a train is going to stop at a certain time and tell you that you might be stuck there for a while? Also, this app will be called Train Snap. Get that time back. Okay, we'll let Claude work on that for a second. So that's fun. Thank you, Nathan, for the app title idea. Okay, let's just check on our other Claude here. By the way, this is like how I work, right? I'm doing at least two things in parallel at the same time. It's probably terrible for me. Oh, it already exists? Oh, well, that's... Oh, well, I guess. It's called Train Snap. Oh, look at that. Brilliant. All right. Well, good news is we don't have to build it. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm going to let you test it for us, Nathan, and let us know if this works. Okay, well, that's fun. Now we don't have to build that. But I am still curious about the data. Oh, yeah, there we go. It found that is real. The question, no, you can't track the trains. You don't need the train, you need the crossing. Oh, cameras, crowdsourced report of traffic signals, acoustic vibrations, or magnetometer, or ATCS signal decoding. That's kind of off of railroad radio. That's hilarious. Okay. That's... No, we're not going to try to solve this right now, Claude. I appreciate the effort, though. So that's kind of fun. There is some data here, though. Feature service. Yeah, okay. Anyway, okay. Shouldn't be... That's kind of fun. Okay. Let's see if how's Claude doing? Oh, Claude, okay. So switching gears back to our dynamic route planning app. Claude has some questions for us, so we're gonna answer those questions. What tech stack do I want for this web app? React and TypeScript sounds great. Yeah, let's do that. How should the AI drive route generation and agentic chat panel where Claude has tools, geocode, route, find, measure distance, and iterates? Yes. Definitely. I definitely think this is an agentic loop type of problem that we're trying to solve. It's not something that Claude's going to be able to do in one shot and provide a result for. It's something it's going to have to iterate on it, I think. Like it's going to have to suggest stops and then get a route and then look at the route and see if that satisfies the criteria and then make additional suggestions and kind of work on it that way. So definitely going to go with agentic. Stop picking. When there are multiple candidate stops, for example, 3 coffee shops near mile 5, how should picking work? A picks easy to swap. Claude picks the best candidate closest to route or target and tells you what it chose. You can say use a different coffee shop in AI in chat to swap. Alternatives also shown as faded markers. Yeah, sure. That I like letting it pick the defaults. V1 features. Which extras are in scope for V1? Turn-by-turn direction, collapsible list of maneuvers. I don't think I actually need that. I just kind of want the route on the map. Mile markers, that sounds fun. GPX export, yeah, that, sure. Elevation profile, ooh, yes, because the elevation profile I think is important. I want to be able to say something like, I want only one hill. I'm gonna say, elevation is really important. I want to be able to say things like have only one big hill, or concentrate the climbing in as few events as possible. This is really hard. I'm not sure that it's gonna be able to do this. Okay, gonna send that in. There's our questions and the answers that we picked, and I'm gonna hit submit, and we'll let that cook. Percent of route selection in the shade would also be fun. Agree. Stretch goal, show percent of route section in the shade. That's going to be, I think that data is fairly local, but maybe we can do it for Portland. That might be sufficient for live stream where we're already 16 minutes in. Okay. So we're gonna let Claude cook on that, and I've got some other kind of just fun, weird things that I was gonna share to kind of talk about some different AI things that are happening. So first, yesterday on LinkedIn, because I spend too much time on the internet, I had someone. I saw a post where someone said that LinkedIn should make a LinkedIn game about geography, where you have to click a place on a map that is listed. So I had Jaws spend like, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes building this game. This is not like, this game is barely a functional prototype, but it's kind of fun. So I figured we could play this together. That might be fun to do. Let me look at the chat before I start diving into this. Would likely need LiDAR data to do that, and would need a model for time of year, or time of day and time of year. Yeah, totally. To do the shade thing. Yeah. That would be, yeah, maybe we should, maybe the app should require that you go out and ride your bike with a LiDAR sensor first, so you can get the, no, okay. That would be fun. Okay. So, let's play pin drop. This is gonna be great. We're gonna test my geography knowledge. I'm nervous. Okay, I have done the first one before, so I do have an idea. But okay, so Puncak Jaya. This is a mountain, a glacier on the equator in New Guinea. Okay, I do happen to know where New Guinea is. New Guinea is this island right here. So I'm just going to go with right there. Oh, nailed it. 115 miles. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, let's go to the next one. So we find Tunis. Next door to ancient Carthage. Ancient Carthage. That's like up here somewhere. It's like up here, I think. Ooh, I was close. Oh, it's on the tip. I probably should have been able to. I probably should have known that. Okay. All right. Okay. Where is Astana? Kazakhstan's capital on the steppe. Kazakhstan. Let's see. That's like, let's see, so we've got like Russia, China. That's gotta be, Kazakhstan is like, does anybody know where Kazakhstan is? Yeah. Oh, Agnes, could you drop the URL into the chat for this one? I think I left it in Slack. I hope I left it in Slack. Oh, got it already. Okay, great. Okay. Kazakhstan. I'm gonna go with. Oh, ooh, that was really close. I didn't actually know. Okay. Ooh, I feel pretty good about this. Okay. Where's the Taj Mahal? Oh man. That's like, oh, I don't, they're even giving me a hint. It's on the Umana River. I don't know where the River is. I'm just gonna go right there. Oh, very close. Okay, that's fun. Um, okay, and Antananarivo, Madagascar's capital. Okay, well, this one feels easy because Madagascar is this island, so I can't. At most I can only be off by the length of this island. I mean, not that Madagascar's small, but okay. I'm just gonna click in the middle of Madagascar. Oh, look at 92 miles. That's pretty good. Okay, so let's see how'd I do. 41 out of 5,000. How did anybody else do? Oh yeah. Okay, just about exactly the same thing. Okay, so my question for you all is would you play pin drop every day? Should this be a daily game? Also, what would you change about the game? Because this was like a 5-minute vibe code, and probably I should put a little more effort into it if I was going to make it a real thing. Also, if you know somebody at LinkedIn, maybe you can get LinkedIn to just add this as a game. I already did all the work. It's like basically done. It's not, but I feel like that's totally totally ability to zoom in. I don't know. Maybe wait. Can I zoom in? I actually don't know. No, I can't zoom in. Ability to zoom in. I guess then that could be like really, really, if you knew exactly where it was, but I don't want to give you reference points. So that's kind of, that would be kind of interesting. Fits really well in the, I got to think about the zoom part. Fits really well in the daily game genre, but their mechanic is that every couple of seconds you get a little more information. Oh yeah. For example, songs, and every 10 seconds you hear another instrument. Yeah, or that song. There's another variation on the song one where it plays like you get like 2 seconds of song, and then if you can't do it, then you can get 5 seconds of song, and usually by like 10 seconds everybody knows it if it's a popular song. That's kind of interesting. I wonder if there's some kind of like slow revealing you could do where it's giving you additional geographic information, or maybe even adjusting the extent of the map over time. That might be kind of fun. After you guess, show clusters of where the other guesses are. Oh yeah, that would be cool. Also, just being able to compare your stats, like how close you were to the average that day and stuff like that, I think would be fun. Yeah, I think that all of those are good ideas. That would be kind of fun to do. Okay, let's see. Claude is busy doing something over here. So let's see. Claude wants my input. So we have a plan, Greenfield web app for a live stream that turns plain language requests like a 10-mile run from Green Lake back to Green Lake, bathroom at mile 5 and 8, water halfway, or bike ride to Fremont with a bike shop stop, concentrate the climbing in one big hill, into an actual route on the map. AI works back and forth agentically. It geocodes routes, measures distances and elevation, searches for stops, and iterates until the route matches the request. User continues refining in chat. That sounds great. Let's see. So it's going to use Valhalla, the OpenStreetMap routing engine. So that sounds fun. I actually don't have very much experience with that or the height or the elevation service. So that'll be kind of fun. Geocoding and place names, and then overpass for the overpass API. That was the overpass. That was the thing I was trying to remember earlier. So that'll be kind of fun. And then I did one thing I did prep ahead of time. I went and got an API key and stuck it in the env file so that it was there, so that I didn't have to put an API key in the live stream that was being recorded. So I did do that. And yeah, this feels pretty good. I'm just going to say go. Okay. Let's see. Look at the chat real quick. So were these 5 questions AI generated? Oh yeah, the 5 questions on pin drop. Yes, those were AI. Jaws made up every one of those, and they're supposed to be like at least a week's worth of questions in there. So like it's like I should be able to get I should get different ones tomorrow than this one. Maptap.gg. I'm really risking it by opening random websites that people put in the chat for me live on the web stream. Try rotating the globe. Okay. Oh, New York City. Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, that's fun. This one has sound effects. I don't know if maybe you heard the ooh in the background. I'm not sure. Okay, that's fun. Casablanca, Morocco. That's Morocco is like over here. I actually don't know where Casablanca is though. This is like, oh, that's okay. That wasn't terrible. That wasn't right vibe, wrong address. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. Well, that's kind of fun. Good sound effects too. Okay. So we might come back to that, but I got other things that I wanted to talk about for funsies here, while Claude is off in the background working on this. Okay. So what did we? Oh, we should check in on the Whisper Frame. What's the Whisper Frame up to right now? Oh, Mountain Trail Explorer, elevation, profile, and route map. Yeah, okay. It's paying attention. Whisper Frame is pretty on it. Okay, cool. All right. So what was the other thing that I was gonna? Oh yeah. So in my effort to continue to test AI models in various exciting ways, I have a new project that I've been working on. It has nothing to do with GIS, so bear with me on this one. Let's make sure my other camera is set up. So I apologize for the awkwardness that's about to happen, but it'll be fun, I think. Well, it's going to be fun for me. Hopefully it'll be fun for you. Okay, so I'm going to switch to this camera. This is a camera looking at the other part of my workshop that normally you can't see. This is where we had the Jaws robot walking around a couple months ago. Is over that direction. But what's important right now is if you look in the center of that workbench, you see that gray thing that hopefully looks a little bit like a garden gnome. That is a garden gnome that I'm working on. The idea is that garden gnome can track you when you're walking around in the yard, and it will squirt you. And when you're not looking, so it's trying to detect your face and know when you're looking away, and then very slowly it's supposed to follow you and then squirt you when you turn away from it, and then when you turn around, it obviously wouldn't. It would just freeze and not move. So this is kind of fun. I have part of it working over here, so I'm gonna go over there, and probably the audio is not gonna be great, but I'll try to yell or something. So you can see it totally can track me, and it's a little bit jerky. I'm still working on the tracking. I don't know if you can hear me. It's a little jerky, but it's kind of fun. It's been kind of fun working on this because I've been learning a lot of new things. But also, the other part of this, am I trying to make my mailman hate me? No, I'm not. It's not. I wasn't going to put it in the front yard until you said that. Yep, that whisper frame kind of nailed that one. So this has been really fun because the challenge that I set for myself for this particular project was that I was not going to do any of the 3D modeling or the coding. And that's I've been working with AI to do both of those things. So like that whole model right there, all of the 3D design was done by Fable. It has been a journey trying to get that design working. Fable is sometimes really good at things. For example, and sorry I keep switching back and forth. It's just weird to me to talk to you when you can't see me. But for example, the body and the beard and all of that, it did all of that on a very, very very early on in the process, it was able to do that 3D modeling, and probably arguably better than I could. Like I'm pretty good at like parametric modeling. I'll say pretty good. I am not an expert, but I get by at doing like parametric modeling. But doing kind of like smooth features like that, where the beard kind of strangely disappears into the body, but you get the idea, I'm not very good at that. And I'm not sure how I was going to do it, but if I had to do it myself. But Fable was actually able to do that part really well. Interestingly, the thing that it struggles with is doing all of the precision things. So like getting the head at the right height, and having the servos mounted inside and the right spacers and all of those things. That's actually what it struggled with the most, which I thought was kind of fascinating. That's its failure mode, was that. So more on that in the future here as I keep working on that. But it has been a fascinating experiment in trying to get the AI to just do something kind of weird like that. It's really good at generating text, but doing design it's interesting. Kind of the way it tends to work is it writes code to generate the files, and then it forgets to look at them. So like I have to remind it / put in its core prompt to re-render it and look at the result before it finalizes it. But then it writes itself like unit tests, like hundreds of unit tests that it runs after it makes a change to verify that it is all correct and everything. And like the head part, the head, being separate from the neck or separate from the body, like it did this whole complicated thing where it like modeled the whole head as a sphere and spun it around in all kinds of directions so that it had certain clearances in this way and that and stuff like that, and still kind of looks like a gnome. Anyway, that is happening, and Whisperframe hasn't changed. It's still gnome with a water gun. That's actually pretty good rendering. Maybe I should have made my gnome look like that. Oh well, this is still going to be fun. Should be a hit for Halloween. Oh, I didn't even think of this as a Halloween tool. That is funny. Okay, that's a really good idea. That is a good Halloween trick. Okay, head being separate from the body. Whisperframe is about to get dark. Yeah, that might. I don't know. It'll probably do. Well, we'll see what Whisperframe does. It'll be fun. Okay, so that has been an interesting journey in just trying to get an AI to do something, especially get it to do something that I am not actually good at, which I think is kind of a fun experience, is like trying to use an AI to do something that I don't normally do myself. So I don't know what's good or bad either. Like I'm just kind of trying to load up the files that it makes and look at them and then ask a lot of questions about what's going on, which is a common theme when using AI to do physical design work. You have to ask a lot more questions than you do when you're doing software work. But I think that is kind of telling about what AI needs, right? It needs a lot of. You have to question it. You have to keep on it about what it's doing and stuff like that throughout the whole process. The other weird thing that I've done is I gave Jaws. Jaws is my AI. So Jaws is my like AI assistant. It has its own extra Mac that sits here on my desk, and it controls things like the AC and the filters and stuff in here. Jaws is also the one doing all of that 3D modeling for the gnome. I use it to do a lot of different types of vibe coding apps and things like that, disposable apps, all kinds of different things. It also will also have it do things like generate reports for me about things at Dymaptic, and I do all kinds of different things with Jaws. But one of the things that I for some reason wanted to do was give JAWS its own view of the world. So JAWS has its own camera up top that is probably lagging behind pretty badly, but its own camera that it can look down on me and follow me through the workshop. My actual like side goal here was to have like an always on recording of the workshop that's following me around. So like if something funny happens in the workshop, I might have some hope of a recording of it. That's kind of like a side journey that I'm on while doing all of these other things, is like having Claude or having JAWS be kind of like my record keeper in a sense, like keeping track of where things are. I'd actually like to be able to ask JAWS like, hey, where did I leave the XYZ tool? I don't think I have much hope of that actually working, but I do think that would be kind of a funny extension of that, or a funny kind of side effect of giving JAWS a camera that it can look down on me on with. So every once in a while, you might hear the servo noise coming from up there as little background clickies, and that is JAWS looking for me. That's its own version of its theme music, I guess, is looking for me. Okay, so those are my kind of fun side journey things that have been going on with AI. Oh, I did also, one time in a live stream, I said that I was going to give JAWS control over my watering system. I have done that. It's been completely uneventful. It wrote itself a Python script to schedule it and manages it and keeps an eye on the weather every week and adjusts it based on how much rain and sunshine and heat and things are happening. And it's actually done a fairly good job. It's paid more attention to it than I have. So that's been nice for the things that have the ability to be watered in an automated way. That's where I fall down on gardening, is I forget to water it. All right, so let's check on JAWS here. Where's my full screen? There it is. Let's see or check on Claude building our app. So we're still running an end-to-end test. Oh, it's testing its own API at this point, so that's kind of interesting. Doesn't look like it's started. Doesn't look like it's opened it to do any testing yet, because we still have our old one here. I guess I should make sure that Claude is logged in. Yeah, it is. Okay, so we're good there. So we'll just let Claude keep cooking on this and see what it gets to. I don't have high hopes for this. I think this is a really hard problem. But I'm often surprised by what AI can do. So this will be fun. Okay. So while that happens, let's jump over and do a couple of questions that you all submitted. There's actually kind of a theme in these questions, so we'll try to touch on a few things. The first one from Jeffrey was pair programming with Copilot. Organizational rules prohibit other models for now. Yep. It kept making up magic methods to solve my problem. I called it out for this so many times in a row that Copilot just quit and said it won't help anymore. Love it when the AI gives up. We're considering allowing Claude Code. Do higher-end models hallucinate less? The short answer to that is yes. The higher-end models do hallucinate less. Newer models consistently reduce hallucinations. Hallucinations have definitely gone down over time, and they've gotten higher quality. And the biggest, especially when writing code, kind of the biggest hallucination is Claude or Copilot or whichever, Codex, it doesn't matter, Gemini. The model, the AI will hallucinate a function that should be there. Like you might have a function called, geometry.buffer, and it buffers a geometry, and like that makes perfect sense for that to exist, but that's not the way the architect built it. Instead, it's like execute GP tool, and you pass in a string called buffer and then the geometry, and so the AI just hallucinates this perfectly good method concept, but it's not actually there. The biggest way to fix that in code is to let Claude be able to run the process. So instead of just outputting code that you then have to deal with, more like what we're doing here in our with our Claude code and our route planner here, is right now Claude is executing these processes, and is checking its own work as it's going. It's running the code to make sure it works, and that will prevent hallucinations, because if it tries to call a function that doesn't exist, it'll get an error and it'll do something about it. I guess it doesn't prevent hallucinations in the sense that it might still do them, but it prevents them from getting to you by the time you get there. Looks like you have a detachable head in your background now. Let's see. Oh, did I miss it? Maybe I missed it. But that is kind of a great schematic of a gnome beard. Anyway, so preventing hallucinations, one of the best ways is let Claude execute the code, and it will iterate on it to produce the right thing. But generally speaking, the newer the model, the fewer hallucinations. The other thing that will happen, especially with certain libraries that are not as well documented, or the documentation isn't visible to the AI, or the documentation has been blocked by the creators of that documentation. Like they actually they have like a robots text file that prevents an AI from reading it. In those environments, the AI is way more likely to just hallucinate what it thinks is the right thing, or what might have worked in a previous version of the SDK. And so we see those kinds of things starting to come back as certain organizations are deciding they don't want the AI to be able to read their documentation, for example. And so that's kind of hurting that. The way around that kind of hallucination is actually building your own documentation and giving the AI access to it, or building your own MCP server and gives the AI access to documentation so that it can go searching for relevant information and pull that forward in your coding agent of choice. And I think that's actually an interesting way that things are kind of evolving there. Just as a side note, our route planner is actually open in Chrome now, so it's working on it. I'm not going to test this yet because it is definitely still working, but we are definitely getting closer to success here, or testable. We're getting closer to testable for our AI route planner, which is really surprising to me. I didn't think we were going to get there. Okay, we'll let that keep running, and the next question is actually, how do you keep track of hallucinations in production work? In coding, in software development, I don't, is the short answer to that. I actually I just try to prevent them by giving Claude the ability to execute the code that it's running, or that it's writing, so that it's less likely that hallucination appears in the application by the time I'm working on it. If I'm using an AI to like write a newsletter, which I do in various ways, I will fact check what the AI does, especially if I'm using the AI for research. And typically the way I do that is I'll use another model or another instance of the same model where it has no shared context, and I will ask it to fact check this report. And it's it's pretty good at catching things, especially like if the original AI got confused about like the number of, I don't know, numbers in an article, in a news article or something like that. I find that Opus 4.8, I haven't noticed this on Opus 5 yet, but Opus 4.8 would sometimes get confused about numbers in an article. Like if there was a sentence saying that in a survey of 500 people, 129 of them said that XYZ would happen, while 5% said this, it would totally get those numbers a little bit confused, and it would be like 5% of 129 survey, it would totally misinterpret the numbers from time to time. And just simply running it through another instance of the model tends to find those, or at least highlight them, so that you can check it yourself, which obviously you should do, right? If you're using AI to write something, the bare minimum is you should read it and make sure that it's right. Ideally, you edit it. Or you just don't use AI to write it at all, and you use AI to help you with research, help you with outline, help you with organization. You write it and then go back to using AI to help you with grammar and editing and things like that. And I think that's a great kind of paired workflow. And then, of course, just being transparent about that you used AI in your workflow, I think, is important too. Not being a secret cyborg and all of that. Which is a good segue into watermarking, which is a thing that has come up. And I've been working really hard to explain watermarking, but it's actually really hard to explain. So maybe I'll answer these other questions, and we'll see if Claude finishes here. And I'll try to come back to watermarking if we have a few minutes at the end, because it's actually, I'm still struggling with how to explain it. So I want to try, but I also want to make sure that I get to these other things first. Any useful skills or workflows that you've come across for end-to-end ETL analysis and map product to share or illustrate on the Esri platform? This is an interesting question. I think Esri has done a pretty good job of adding agents into their products, but kind of end-to-end things, they haven't released those kinds of tools yet. They're still working on kind of the point solutions within different products. And so end-to-end tools, I think, are still are not official yet, I should say. And but that said, I'll say that the things I've had experience with, a couple of things that have been really useful. The first is internally at Dymaptic, we built this tool, and I've talked about this on LinkedIn a few times, but we built this tool that connects Claude to ArcGIS Pro, so that you can basically load up some data in ArcGIS Pro, and then you can ask Claude to do some analysis on it and produce a map. And it's incredibly powerful, but it's also incredibly dangerous. Because if I log into the database using my credentials and I have the ability to edit or make schema changes, and then I connect Claude to my instance of Pro, Claude has the exact same permissions that I do. And so my favorite meme on the internet is when somebody is like, I gave Claude access to my production database and it deleted it. Well, I'm sorry that happened, but you gave production access to an AI and it deleted it is like kind of a predictable thing these days. I do not give JAWS access to things that delete access to things that can go wrong. I don't do it. And for that reason, I always put me in the loop if it's something important. And I think that's really, important to consider. Like, what is the blast radius? What is the consequence of what you're doing with AI is really important to consider when you're doing those kinds of things. And if you give your AI delete access, it might use it. And what's going to happen when it does? And I think you have to be aware of those things. So that tool that we've built, and we've only used it internally for projects, we've never let anyone else use it, is incredibly dangerous because of that, because you can accidentally delete your whole database or do a truncate or do something like that, because the tool has access to everything in ArcGIS Pro. So it's incredibly dangerous in that sense. The other thing, and I talked about this in a newsletter a couple of weeks ago that I've done, is I actually created I created an MCP server that hooks to ArcGIS Online. And so I have that connected here to this Claude, and I'm logged in as my ArcGIS Online account. So I can come here and I can do something like create an ArcGIS map that shows me air quality in the Portland, Oregon region. And what it's going to do is it's going to go look at the tools that I've given it, and it's going to look for data. It's going to pull data in. It's going to evaluate data. It's going to search ArcGIS content. You can see it's doing that right there. It's going to go look for things, and then it's going to make an interactive map. It might make me a new map in ArcGIS Online. It has several different options for what it might do, but it gives it these capabilities to do things like search for data, query data, build a web map, create a new feature service, update data or load data into that feature service. So it has a lot of options that it can do. And I actually did something like this a couple of weeks ago for a short camping trip where I had it put in potential campgrounds. I had it like geocode them and load them up into its own feature service and make me a web map where we could overlay fires and other things on it, and we could share it and look at camping location ideas and things like that, and think about all of it kind of together. So using the power of GIS together, but done by powered by the AI being able to help me find data and do the work for me. So you can see here, very kind of rudimentary map of air quality, but I do have a map, and usually I can so I can click on them and I can get pop-ups, and so you can see it basically it made me a very simple map like that. So this is the other kind of interaction that I've had success with recently. What is the whisper frame showing? I don't know. Let's check. On cloud cognition streams. It's a cloud server and databases and data flow. It's supposed to be an illustration of data flow, I think, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, whisper frame. Sometimes it draws really great pictures, and sometimes it draws kind of boring ones. I see this kind of picture a lot from the whisper frame. So it when it draws things like this, I feel underwhelmed. Yeah. So those are the kinds of things that I'm seeing for ArcGIS kinds of data flows and things like that I think are going to be really powerful. And Esri is getting ready to release their own MCP. They have an MCP in beta or in testing, I forget what it's called, but they have in testing for ArcGIS Enterprise, and they have one for ArcGIS Monitor, which lets you monitor your ArcGIS environment and know which services are in use and what's interesting there. And we've actually had some really cool experience doing things like using AI to generate insights about your ArcGIS environment, not about the ArcGIS data, but just about your servers and your services and who's using them and what maps are using and things like that. Which is kind of interesting because the last question on my list here is, I think the soul of AI is MCP, and I want to know more about how to pick and use MCP. And that's a really interesting comment because I think MCP is what allows you to attach data and services to an AI and really make it much more powerful than it is otherwise. It kind of grounds it. It prevents it from hallucinating quite a bit because it gives it the tools to make a decision using data instead of making up an answer based on what it knows. You know, kind of a common thing that you'll see on the internet is someone saying, how can these AI models build an entire piece of software, but when I ask it for a coffee shop recommendation, it'll tell me something that was closed 2 years ago. If you think about it, that's probably something that we all do also. Like somebody says, oh, I'm going to be in I don't know, in Houston where you used to live. What's your favorite coffee shop? And I'd be like, oh man, the one I remember is XYZ, and I can't actually think of a coffee shop in Houston right now. But anyway, the one I remember is this one, and it might be closed because I'm using my memory to look it up. And I think AIs have the same self-confidence in their own data, in their own memory. And so giving the AI a tool like an MCP endpoint allows it at the very least, the opportunity and the capability to give you a better answer. And so that really helps, like grounding it in data, especially if you can control the data that's happening. You can do things like if you're in a GIS org, you can look at your tickets and look for patterns and types of questions that people ask for and things like that. And that's usually a really powerful way to figure out what types of data and what MCPs you might need for a GIS AI integration kind of process. Okay, we got like 5 minutes, so let's just check in on Claude here. Actually doing a pretty good job. It's actually kind of fascinating just looking. I don't want to scroll because I can see it's controlling the Chrome window right now, so I don't want to scroll, but I can see that it's doing things like doing a bunch of different routes and measuring shade. I don't know how it's measuring shade. That's an interesting, it's trying. But it's definitely working hard to try to build custom routes by adding stops and looking at elevation. I'm assuming that this like water thing is like a water station. I don't know why there's a tree in the middle of that body of water, but it's trying. I think it's actually doing a pretty good job. Okay, let me check on chat here. JAWS sounds very useful. Would you have JAWS do a series of webinars on how it works and how to create one? Oh, that's interesting. That's actually kind of a cool idea. JAWS could totally do its own webinar. That might be fascinating. I think the interesting thing is when I started JAWS, there weren't very many agentic harnesses available. Now there are, there's OpenClaw, which is the kind of the big popular one. Although I think now the one leading the pack is one called Hermes. And so you can get Hermes and hook it up to your AI of choice and start building things out like JAWS. The critical thing that makes JAWS powerful is it has its own computer, its own sandbox. That can be a virtual machine or a physical machine, doesn't matter, but its own sandbox where I'm not logged into things that are dangerous. I'm not logged into my personal email or my work email or anything like that on that same computer. And so it can just open a browser, it can do anything. And the worst that happens is it crashes that computer. And so that kind of capability is really the most important thing to building an agent like that, is giving it the ability to have free reign on its own computer, to take its own actions, use its own browser, do its own things. That's really the thing that makes it most powerful, and then connecting it to systems. But there's actually I talked about this in my last live stream when I did it live from the UC, and I can't think of the name of it now, but there was there's an MCP for MCPs that you can use now that allows you to basically connect other MCPs into its MCP, and then you connect that one to your agent, and then the agent uses the one to find other ones. It's like an auto discovery system. There's a coming standard for auto discovery, but like there's kind of that auto discovery thing, and that's really useful. And I wish I could remember the name of that. Can't think of what it's called right now, but anyway, that kind of MCP integration is really powerful, and I think what makes agents work. It's whether it's an autonomous agent like JAWS running on its own computer, or it's a more focused one like this. Our AI route planner here, this is an agent because it is not just ask a question, get an answer. It is doing work in the background. You can see right now it is doing work, doing different routes for different waypoints, trying to get the 10-mile loop, looking for bathrooms and water fill locations and things like that. So it's iteratively working on the problem, which is, I think, kind of fascinating. So we're right at the top of the hour now, so I really don't have time to try to explain the watermarking thing. But I am working on it because I haven't found a description of the way watermarking works that really satisfies me. Because I think the important thing about watermarking is that, one, you can reliably tell with a large enough sample of text that it did come from an AI or a specific AI, really, not just any, but a specific one. And also that it doesn't affect the quality of the output, because we don't want to affect the quality of it. And that it should disappear as I edit it, or there should be a very, very, very low false positive rate for text written by a human not being mistaken by that AI. And I think that all of those things are achieved in the watermarking scheme that Anthropic is using, and turns out Gemini is using the same one. I just learned about this recently, but Gemini's been using it for like months, and they've been actively testing quality, and there is no detectable difference in the quality of the answers while using the watermark. So I think we have real kind of testable empirical evidence of it, as well as the math evidence. And I'm working on a newsletter that's going to explain this. So maybe in the next live stream, we'll dive into that. But I think the short version is that watermarking is a way to control the artificial probability function, and by controlling that artificial probability function, you can look for patterns in the text, and if those patterns exist frequently, then you know it was probably generated by an AI and not by a human. And that's kind of the high level version of it. But to do that without affecting quality is the important part. And that has to do with controlling the probability space and making it both predictable and probabilistic at the same time, which is weird. But if you think about the way pseudo random number generators work, it's the same thing, right? If you've ever generated a number in Python, if you set the seed to 10 and then you ask for a new number, you're going to get the same number. And if I set the seed to 10 and I ask for it, I'm going to get the same number. So you can control the randomness of that pseudo random number generator. And of course, we try to avoid that usually by sampling the clock or doing other things, or trying to be very, very random like Cloudflare and their lava lamps. But typically, we're not using that. We're using that pseudo random number generator, and there is a technique that allows us to kind of control that. And I'll stop there because I feel like I'm about to dive into a whole explanation of the thing, and we're already over time. So Claude is still working on this. We'll take a look at this next month and see how Claude did. I will let it continue to churn on finishing this up, so we can look at it next month. And yeah, thank you all for coming and participating in my reindeer games and chatting with me in the chat and talking about all of these different weird AI things. This is super fun for me. I hope it's fun for everybody else too. So thank you all for coming, and I will see you next month in our next live stream. So thank you.